Okay, hi guys. We ran into a little technical issue earlier in class with making disk images, but that does not mean that we were not going to make disk images today. So we're making a little video to show you how to make appropriate disk images after you have shot. So quite often when you have shot, you will get when you have shot and then attached to your camera or card reader to the computer, your card will show up as a Canon EOS disk, right? That's fine, but not very practical for the future. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to rename the disk on the desktop. It is advised to rename it such that you are only using 8 characters and characters that might actually be appropriate for what was happening within that shoot. So today we had multiple groups. We want to know in our disk image name what group we were in. We also want to know what day was shot. And for the sake of organization for class, since I have an AM and a PM section, I also want to denote whether it was the AM group or if it was the PM group. So we'll go directly to the desktop and actually literally just rename it on the desktop. So this would be group 1 and 925. And then also I'm going to put P for PM. So I can see that it's group 1 from 9:25 and it's in the afternoon. When you're naming disk images, you should keep the names as short as possible. It is highly encouraged to keep them at 8 characters. So that's why you have to be very concise on which characters you're using to represent what's going on in the contents of that card. So we've renamed it on the desktop itself. Now we are actually going to open the application called Disk Utility. We will come over to the left-hand side of Disk Utility, and I'm just going to move this down a little bit. Select the disk that is on, we can see on the desktop, that we know that came from our camera. We are going to go ahead and hit the button at the top called New Image. Since we have renamed it on the desktop, it automatically inserts that name as the disk image name. That's a useful correlation. So having the disk image, when it mounts, have the same name that it has as the file will be a useful tool for you. So we can go ahead and leave it as is. We'll want to save it in a location that is useful for us to find later on. So I'm just going to make a new folder in my Astra class. And I'm going to save it in there. So I can go ahead and you'll notice there's a few options here. You can just leave them as is. Image format compressed. It doesn't mean it's actually doing any compression to the actual data that's on the card itself. It's just the format that it is writing the disk image in, so it's a non-destructive thing. Encryption, we don't need a fancy encrypted file. No one's going to be spying on us, so we can just leave it as is. So we can go ahead and hit save. And voila, now we're in a little bit of a moment right now, but we're working on things. Previously with older versions of the OS, this is never asked for a password, but currently it's asking for an admin password. By the time you watch this video, it should probably be fixed in E60. And definitely if you're using this on your own home computer, this should probably not be an issue at all. I'm going to go ahead and type in the password. The password, let me just change that because I'm in a different location than normal. Okay, and then it'll just take a little bit of time. The disk image will process, and you just kind of sit and wait for it. And it'll probably, depending on how full the card is, it may take a very short period of time, or you might need to actually give yourself a good 20-30 minutes to offload all the material. This is a good time to talk a little bit about naming conventions. So you probably noticed as I was naming the disk image that I used numbers, characters, and underscores, but I did not use spaces. It is a very good practice to get into to not use spaces or other types of punctuation, exclamation points, periods, etc. within your proper name for your card. So keep everything to letters, characters, or numbers. Or letters, underscore, or numbers, excuse me. So this card's a little bit full, so this may take a few moments. Okay, so our disk image has completed. So we can navigate to the drive if we want to. So I'm going to go ahead and quit disk utility. And I'm just going to go ahead and first, actually, even before I navigate to the drive, I'm going to eject the disk from the desktop. Then I'm going to navigate to the drive where I just saved the disk image to verify that it is saved properly. And we made the demo disk image folder, so we'll go ahead and take a look in there. And we can see that we've created a file g1_925_p.dmg, DMG for disk image. So just to verify that our data has been saved properly, we can double click our disk image. It'll open it up. I'm just going to, for the time being, skip verifying because we want to just kind of see what's on the actual disk image itself. It automatically opened up my photo, but that is unimportant. And I can go in and I can take a look really quickly. And yes, all the data that we have that should be on the card seems to probably be there. This would be a good moment in time when if you have a camera report like we filled out today in class, that the person who is doing the media data wrangling for your shoot would be able to have the camera report and have that card and then correlate the data appropriately to make sure that nothing is missing from the card and that all shots are accounted for. For right now, we're just going to go ahead and close that folder, close that back. Then the disk image is saved to your disk, and you'll be able to open this in Avid and be able to utilize those files when you're editing later on. So I think that should be it for disk images, and we will definitely talk about this a little bit more in class next week. All right.